Okay, for this project, we are going to be drawing in portrait style. So we want to use most of this paper. We don't want little pieces of corn in the middle of our paper. We want to use most of it. So it always is helpful to start by feeling your paper, reminding yourself how much space you have to work with. Okay, so roughly in the middle, you're going to start to sketch a piece of corn. So I'm starting wider at the top. And as I get to the bottom, I get a little smaller. So there's my rough sketch of one corn. Then I'm gonna come over to the other side. Same thing. And over here, I kind of want it to look like it's overlapping, like the front one is overlapping. So there are my three basic shapes for my corn. Then I want to do my corn husks. So corn husks kind of just go all over the place. So I'm again kind of sketching. Get some movement in there with them. I don't love this one. So there's my rough sketch of my husks. I can always work on those a little bit later. But now we have a basic outline for our corn husks. For our kernels, you might want to start doing this. That is not the shape of a kernel, okay? It's easier for me to turn my paper on its side, and they're like ovals on their side. Okay. That is more what you are going for. This is not. That's not what we want. This is what we want. So to help guide me on my kernels, I can split this into some sections if I'd like. Super light. Just gonna draw pretty straight down. Okay, I'm just gonna start with one. Again, it's easier for me to do it on its side, so then I'm gonna start making those kernel shapes all the way down. You're gonna go all the way down on the other side, make more. Once you get used to it, it goes fairly fast, but I don't want you to rush. And as I get closer to the bottom, I'm gonna start to make them a little bit smaller, and I should have angled my lines as well to help me guide into that smaller section. Okay, so I have 2 rows of corn already done. I'm gonna keep going on my other sides. You'll see I have 1 piece of corn all the way done. Now I can move on to my next ones. So before I move on to my next ones, I feel like I wanted a husk kind of coming across here, so it kind of starts at like a rounded top. So then I'm gonna erase that corn that I've already drawn. And it's gonna erase fairly well because I drew light. Draw light until it's right. You can see I smudged over here with my hand. That's okay. I also decided to draw another husk here to go in front of this one. So let's move on to this piece of corn. Again, I'm gonna do a rough line to guide me along. Remember, as you get to the bottom, you want to make your lines go in there too. Because I have this piece overlapping, I just need to go behind it. And kind of help it guide me. Now I'm ready to turn it to the side because, again, for me, that's easier. I'm gonna start in a section that has a full line. So I'm gonna start here. For these, I need to make it go behind that corn husk. They're all not gonna be perfect, but you wanna try your best to keep it in that shape. And as we get to the bottom, your pieces get smaller. Once you have finished drawing your corn, you are now going to trace over it with your Sharpie, your fine tip. Take your time. You're just going over the pieces of corn. It doesn't have to be exactly. You now have a guideline though to where you want them to be. You want them pretty much touching each other. And again, as we get to the bottom, our pieces get smaller. Okay, I have now outlined all of my little pieces of corn. Now I need to decide, do I want to keep these husks as they are? I know for sure I want to keep this one, so I'm going to trace that as well with my Sharpie. I want to keep this one. Looks like I missed a couple pieces of corn up in here. Okay. I want to keep this one. I think the other ones are fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and just trace my line. So now that I have all that traced, now I'm going to take my eraser and erase the whole thing. We are going to use watercolor pencils because it's going to let us be able to get into each small little section, but then when we put water on it, it's going to blend it out really good. So I kind of just want to figure out what colors I want to start with for one of them. So ornamental Indian corn comes in all different colors. Maybe do these 3 colors. Another dark purple in there to start, and I think I'm going to do that for my biggest one in the middle. So when you start, again, it's easier for me to turn my paper when I'm working with ovals, and I'm just going to start coloring on the inside first. Well, first start with the outside. I would go dark on the outside and leave the inside white, because when we paint it, it'll give it like some highlight. You can kind of decide how many are gonna be that color. Most of the time with this type of corn, it'll all be mainly one color and then maybe like a random white or yellow in the mix. So it actually might be easier to do your ones that are going to be spread out first. And I'm going to go in with my dark. Again, I just want to color the outside edge, well, the inside, but like the edge of the oval, because when I paint, it's going to blend it pretty nicely for me. So leave the middle white. I've finished doing just the inner layer of the corn, leaving the middle basically white. And now I'm gonna get my paintbrush wet, just barely. Again, we're just using the tip of our paintbrush. And I'm going to start painting over my colors. I'll zoom in for you. So you'll see it starts to blend it really nice. I have some yellow in there. I'm not going to do the yellow yet because I'm still working with purples, and purple is already on my brush. You'll see it just softens up that colored pencil. I'm still going in that general oval shape with the tip of my paintbrush. And you just need the slightest amount of water. I've only dipped this in once into my water. Dip it in again, just very, very lightly. There's my water. Just very lightly touching the tip, and then even brushing it off on the side. Continue to go in that oval shape with just the tip of your brush. You can see the difference between the ones that I have painted with the water and the ones that have not blended out yet. So here's one of my corns completely colored. I do have some white spots. I can take a wet or a clean paintbrush and just kind of go through to spread my color a little bit towards the white pieces, just so it's not as obvious. But overall, it should be fine. So you can see this is the one that I painted. I've only colored these two, and I'm starting to paint on the top. Again, we want to keep doing that tip of our paintbrush with very little water. You should be able to tell when your brush needs more water, because the area that you touch is not going to start blending. For this next part, for the husks, you're going to want to use your browns, your yellows, probably a black, and maybe like a orange. I'll do these colors. Okay, so I'm gonna start at the edge that's close to the corn. It's gonna be darker. So I'm gonna start with my browns. I'm gonna go on the edge of the outside of them, but you can see how I'm making the bottom darker. Now I'm going to do some blacks, also closer, not a lot, just a few lines of it. Add some yellow in, not thinking too much about it. Same with some orange. I'll do a few random dark browns in the middle. And now let's see how that works with our water to activate that watercolor. if you can still see your pencil marks like down here, I'm just gonna keep going over it with my wet paintbrush to kind of break it up. And there you go, there's one example of the corn husks. Another example, again, you want to go dark at the base and the outer edge. Let's see how this one looks with more just brown. Now I'm going to paint it. Doing just brown is going to allow me to get some lighter browns in as well. Leave one or two spots with some white for a nice highlight. So now you kind of have two examples. This one had more of like that black and yellow. This one was just browns. You can kind of decide what you like. For my background, I'm going to do a really, really light gray. So first I'm going to get my brush wet with water, put it into my mixing area, touch your wet brush to your black, and mix it into your pod, a little bit more, and more water into there. You want it very light gray. Okay. We're just gonna do a light wash over it. I'm not doing anything too perfect. I'm just kind of giving it somewhat of a background. Again, you're just using the tip of your paintbrush. You should never be smashing your brush down. I'm just doing a light wash. You can tell I'm going pretty quickly, but making sure to not get on my corn. Super, super light gray. Again, being careful to not get on my corn or my husks. We're just going around it with a light wash. I'd rather you start really light and then add more darker spots if you want. Again, I'm gonna first get my water, touch it to my black, then touch my black in there. If I wanted to, I can go through a little bit more in certain areas. Again, just like a quick wash. We want it to look kind of rough. Still only using the tip. I'm not pushing down at all on my brush. It's never smashed. And now we're done.